R.K. Bakshi, former ED, Bank of Baroda, joins us right now. Mr. Bakshi, how are you assessing this development? 2 lakh rupees worth of farm loan waiver for crop loans specifically. These will be for loans taken after September 30th, 2019. They will be restructured as well, and the new scheme for farmers who've paid their loans on time. So a host of developments. Can you talk to us about how is it likely to pan out, and how is it likely to be for bankers as well, the ones who have lent or sort of disbursed these loans?
So as far as the banks are concerned, they get their money back, whether they get it immediately or in installments, and basically the farmer exposure gets sort of translated into sovereign exposure on the state as a sovereign, because the state assumes the responsibility to repay those loans, whether in one shot or in installments. So that way, bankers are assured of repayment of their money. And these farm loan waiver schemes in Maharashtra, I think 1 or 2 years back also, there have been schemes which were prevalent, which was announced by the previous government. And I don't know what is the status of that, whether they have been concluded or not. It's a fact that farmers are very vulnerable group. They suffer. I think this may be the only business or occupation in the country or world where right from the date of sowing to date of harvesting and selling, everything remains in the under the open sky and vulnerable to the elements of the nature. So they do suffer for shortage of rain and because of lack of irrigation facilities, lack of markets availability, price crashes, so they do need support. Although I remember the previous governor of RBI had in a speech said that this farm loan waiver, I think it needs to be reconsidered because it has got a lot of harmful effects on the credit culture of the farmers. On the one side, you have to balance the vulnerability of the farmers and the frequent losses they go into and the debt trap they go into, and no better proof is required other than the suicide that they commit. But on the other side, their vulnerability, whether it can be addressed in other manners, in manner of whether it is by way of insurance, crop loan insurance, which is a much better thing, because then it's the actual persons who have suffered in that, and it loses a political color. See, farm loan waivers all said and done, in every election those gets promised. Not one party, almost every party in the country has done that. So that creates a bad credit culture as far as the banks. Banks won't lose money. Banks will get their loans repaid. So they are not the losers. But then what happens is those who are good farmers or those who can repay their loans in good times also sometimes may be encouraged to wait for a farm loan waiver scheme to be announced. Or they may feel cheated that those who have repaid, those who have not repaid are now getting supported.
Of course, we understand that banks will recover those funds or recover the money that they've dispersed. But what I was essentially trying to hint at was the risk of impaired credit discipline. But you've addressed that for us as well. Talk to us about how these farm loan waivers or some kind of other government-led initiatives, etc., tend to sometimes lead to a weak risk reward for banks, which are actually giving out a helping hand to these farmers and other smaller businesses.
See, these type of omnibus waiver schemes have come only in respect of farmers. I have not seen many or any also in recent times, at least in any other areas. There are subsidy linked schemes where there may be subsidy or encouragement to the banks by targets to give loans, but I have not seen other than maybe at some state level certain things might have happened which I am not aware. But farm loan waivers is one thing that we have discussed, that it does create a moral hazard, a big moral hazard. So, as I said, it's a tightrope walk between the vulnerability of the farmers and need to support them. And it has been put. And the another negative thing that happens is that with all the resources gone into these waiver schemes, and I am not getting into whether justified or not justified, states and central government are left with less or no money and less or no initiative to put structural changes, the development of markets, the development of infrastructure that can support the farming on a long-term basis, the development of markets, or creating business models which will be all-weather proof for the farmers rather than these political, which they're not really political, but then they get a political color because everybody party wants to outwit the other party, even if the waivers are justified, but there's no money left for creation of other agricultural infrastructure, which is a long-term requirement for the country.
Right, Mr. Bakshi, thanks so much for taking out time for us, explaining us what's the first reaction on this farm loan waiver.